Hello, and welcome back to our continuing series of Wednesday watch parties talking about reasons for the rainbow. This evening, I get to talk to you about the plausibility of the arc. Just going to answer these questions. I have a list here of the most common zingers to try to disprove the arc. Well, first off, how big was the arc? 300 by 50 by 30 cubits, which is great. Who knows what a cubit is? Well, it's easy. It's from your fingertip to your elbow. So for most people, that's around 18 or 19 inches. The royal cubit, which was used in Old Testament times, was the kingly measurement, and it was a kingly about 21 inches. So when we convert those over cubits into feet, what we would see is we would have a ship over 500 feet long, 85 feet wide, and 51 feet high. So basically, we're looking at a Casablanca-class aircraft carrier. So yes, this is a big boat. World War II, people landed airplanes on these carriers. It was obviously still a challenge because it's tough landing on a boat in the middle of the ocean. But we're not landing airplanes on the Ark. We're just storing a whole bunch of people, well, 8 to be exact, and a bunch of animals. So the next zinger question was, how do you get all those animals on there? There are just thousands and thousands of species. It's just impossible. Well, Noah didn't have to load every kind of cat and every kind of dog and every kind of camel. He only needed a couple of dogs, a couple of cats, a couple of camels. All of those different family groups can interbreed and have cats have kittens, dogs have puppies. It all works just fine for looking at the kinds relating to what we would call as a family group level. So when you do the translation from biblical bar mins, biblical kinds, we're really looking at our taxonomy and zoology somewhere in the family classification. So it's a much higher ranking in the way we order and arrange our different kinds of animals. But again, we're looking at, as we look at all land-dwelling animals, somewhere between 3,000, maybe 3,500 kinds. And each of those family groups having a pink and a blue, we're looking at roughly 7,000 critters. That's not a lot, and that's certainly doable, especially as we look at the next question, which is size. How would Noah be able to get elephants and rhinoceros and T-Rexes and giant critters on the boat? Well, he was 600 years old. Probably had figured out that you take teenagers along, they sleep a lot, which is a bonus, and they're going to be good for reproducing once the boat lands. Good deal there. And they're smaller, especially in the case of reptiles. They never stop growing throughout their lifetime, so baby lizards are small, adult lizards are big, and really old lizards are huge. So take teenagers, they're smaller, they're easy to deal with. So how big is the average land dwelling critter today? On average, we're looking at a large dog or maybe a medium-sized sheep size, which greatly simplifies food storage and pens or kennels or nests or whatever the animals are going to sleep in. And it's very possible and plausible to be able to do this. Because again, Noah didn't have to take fish. They're out in the flood outside. They're just swimming around. Probably didn't need to take insects. They hatch from eggs, so they don't need a lot of food and they don't need a lot of space. And besides that, most insects, unfortunately, can survive floods. I lived in Florida. They survive just about anything. So you don't need to take them along. So again, we've got some easy do's here. But we do have animals making poo. And that's the next question. How do you deal with that? And the answer is there's a neat trick with ships called a moon pool. And a moon pool basically is a tube, an elevator shaft, somewhere in the middle of the boat. And wave action will cause a suction or a pressure inside the tube as the waves go up and down. And you can harness that energy to propel the ship, to ventilate the ship, to get those nasty fumes and smells out of the boat, or to pump out waste, bilge, or any other number of things, all using tidal action, free energy. And with today's gas prices, I'm surprised more ships don't use something like that because it's free. All it does is take a little space. So clearly, that would have been a doable do and something that would be very helpful. All right, next question. How would you get all the food on the ship? Well, a couple of questions here tied together. One, we don't need to have extra animals to be eaten because at the time, all of the animals were herbivores. So we didn't have carnivores, we didn't have scavengers. If we did, there would be plenty of dead things floating in the water outside and we could just hook them and pull them in. But with all of the animals being herbivores, it would have been grains and grass stalks and this sort of thing, and those are easy for storage. Putting up a load of hay, not a problem, especially if your animals are hibernating. Most animals do go into a hibernative state during times of crisis or food shortage emergencies, and that helps greatly reduce the amount of poo you got to deal with and the amount of food you got to put in. Both of these are helping the same situation on different ends, unintended, for Noah and his family. It gives them a lot less work. As well, if you have some plumbing involved, the ancient Chinese had some pretty elaborate bamboo plumbing works, in addition to natural gas usage thousands of years ago. So it's quite plausible that some rudimentary gutters and pipes and valves allowed Noah and his family to have automatic feeders, automatic waterers for the animals. And again, you have free energy from moon pool, tidal action, wind power, any number of things to just take some mechanical advantage to make people power less important. All right, stability of the ship. Well, this is a pretty important thing. Going back to those ratios of numbers, the Dutch had studied their Bibles and hundreds of years ago figured out that these ratios maximize volume and stability. So an arc of this ratio, the 500 to 85 to 51 in feet, would give you maximum volume with maximum stability, and that's a good thing. The Dutch used the ratio, little tiny Holland, to become a sea power because they could haul a lot of stuff efficiently and safely. Being on the ocean on a boat, it's important to be both good on cargo and safe. Another simple thing that can be done with large ships, now I will caveat here for a second, wood ships suffer from twisting issues in storms. And generally it happens around the mast where the mast attaches to the hull of the ship. There's a twisting moment, and that's where most wood-hulled ships fail in a storm, aside from having things poke holes in the side of the boat, but that's another story. But remember, this is an ark. There's nowhere to go. So they didn't have a mast, so they didn't have those twisting moments to have to worry about. And in fact, with a simple bow fin on the front end and a fixed rudder on the back end, the ship would be self-steering into the waves, which would keep it even more stable and automatically steer perpendicular to the waves, which again helps the ship to self-right and to be self-stabilizing in a storm, which is important when you're talking about a global flood. All right, how could Noah and his family have possibly built such a large ship? Well, the Bible doesn't say that they did it all by themselves. And it does say that they had over 100 years of construction time. So I'm guessing you could build a whole lot of stuff in 100 years if your life depended on it. And possibly if you hired the International Brotherhood of Gopher Woodworkers, you could contract out a lot of the work. And the Bible doesn't say either way, but it's quite plausible that Noah and his family did have help, whether it was family, friends, or contractors. They had other people working on the boat. So how did Noah collect all of those animals? Well, he didn't. God brought the animals to Noah. All he had to do was just load them. It's important to note that nearly every culture in the world, from the American Indians to the Aborigines in Australia, have flood legends. Many of them have some of the similar details that you'll see in the Bible, but only the Bible has the exact dimensions of the ark, the ratios, and showing some of the more scientific facts that unfortunately get missed in many of the other flood legends. Why did after the ark was loaded, why did God wait a full week after everybody was there, all the animals were on board, before the flood occurred? Well, during the 100 years while Noah and his family were building the ship, they were telling people that God's judgment was coming. And after they were on board, God, in his mercy, waited an extra week in case anybody changed their mind and wanted to join Noah and his family. Unfortunately for them, nobody took God up on his offer. But that offer was still given. There is a method of salvation provided. It was on God's terms, but the judgment was coming, and it was delayed because of mercy. Today, we're looking at an imminent return of God. He said so. He's given us clues as to when he would return and when he would judge the world for its sinfulness and its wickedness. And this time it's not going to be by flood, it's going to be by fire. So take out your fire insurance, study your Bible, see what God has to say about it, and I hope you take him up on his offer of salvation. It's a free gift, and it's offered to anyone, anywhere, anytime, as long as there's still time. So until we have the next episode, please feel free to send us any of your questions that I may have missed on the Zinger list. Obviously can't cover everything in 12 minutes, but I'll do as much as I can. But feel free to contact us at Crossroads, whether it's by email, Faith Life, Facebook, telephone, telegraph, any of those other methods. Be happy to answer your questions. So until next time, have a blessed day.